Danny Cole had never been to a fancy dinner before. Back on Earth, he was just an engineer who fixed broken machines and ate sandwiches at his desk. But here, aboard the Starboard Unity, he was one of only 3 humans on a ship full of aliens. And tonight, that made him special. The dining hall was beautiful. Long tables covered with silver cloth stretched across the room. Strange flowers floated in glass bowls filled with glowing water. Creatures from 12 different worlds sat together, talking and laughing in languages Danny could barely understand. His translator chip worked hard to keep up with all the voices. "Stop looking so nervous," said Kira Vance, sitting beside him. She was a security officer, tough and smart, with short brown hair and a scar on her chin from a fight she never talked about. "You're representing humanity tonight. Try to smile." "I am smiling," Danny said through his teeth. "That's not a smile. That's what prey animals do when they see a predator." Danny relaxed his face and laughed quietly. Kira always knew how to make him feel better. They had been friends since the day he arrived on the ship 6 months ago. She had shown him where to find the good coffee and which aliens to avoid. When they were in bad moods, Commander Vrax stood at the head of the main table. He was Tarani, a species that looked like tall insects with 4 arms and large golden eyes. His shell was dark blue, a sign of high rank among his people. When he spoke, the whole room went quiet. "Tonight, we celebrate the bond between the Tarani Collective and the Human Alliance," Vrax said, his voice clicking and buzzing in a way that sounded almost musical. 2 years ago, we were strangers. 1 year ago, we were friends. And now, we are family. Everyone clapped or made whatever sound their species used to show approval. Danny clapped along, feeling a small warmth in his chest. It was nice to belong somewhere. The food came out on floating plates that moved by themselves. Danny watched in wonder as dish after dish landed on the table. Some things looked like fruit. Some things looked like meat. And some things looked like nothing he had ever seen before. "What is that?" he asked, pointing at a bowl of dark purple roots covered in thick golden oil. Pella, a young Sundari sitting across from him, looked up with her large yellow eyes. She was reptilian, with green scales and a long tail that she kept wrapped around her chair leg. She was new to the ship, only 19 years old by human counting, and she was always curious about everything. "Those are Velshi roots," Pella said. "A Tarani delicacy. Very sacred. The oil is made from the night bloom flower. It takes 6 months to prepare." Danny reached for the serving spoon. "Sounds fancy. Can I try some?" Pella tilted her head. "I do not know if humans can eat it. The night bloom has strong compounds. Most species avoid it." "I'll be fine," Danny said with a grin. "I've eaten gas station sushi. Nothing scares me anymore." He scooped some roots onto his plate. The smell hit him immediately, sweet and sharp, like honey mixed with black pepper. He took a bite and his eyes went wide. "Oh, wow," he said. "That's actually really good." The roots were soft and tender, almost melting on his tongue. The golden oil had a rich, spicy flavor that reminded him of his grandmother's cooking back in Texas. He took another bite. Then another, barely stopping to breathe. Pella watched him eat with growing concern. Her tail unwrapped from the chair and began to twitch. "Danny, how much of the oil have you consumed?" "I don't know, a lot?" He picked up a piece of bread from his plate and dipped it into the leftover sauce. "This stuff is amazing. Why don't we have this every night?" "Because it is poison," Pella said, her voice rising. "The night bloom extract attacks the nervous system. Even a small amount can cause paralysis in most species." Danny paused with the bread halfway to his mouth. "Wait, what? How are you still talking? How are you still alive?" Pella stood up so fast her chair fell over. "You should be convulsing by now." Other aliens at the table turned to look. A Tarani scientist dropped his drink. A Velian diplomat made a high-pitched sound that Danny's translator called extreme distress. Kira grabbed Danny's arm. "What did you eat?" "Just the purple things." She said they were a delicacy. I said they were sacred. Pella shouted. I did not say they were safe. Danny looked down at his plate. He had eaten all the roots. The bowl in front of him was nearly empty. He had consumed more of the oil than anyone else at the entire table. "I feel fine," he said, confused. "Really, a little warm, maybe. But fine." Pella's scales had turned pale, a sign of fear in her species. She looked at Danny like he was either a miracle or a monster. Then she turned and ran out of the dining hall, her voice echoing through the corridors. "Medical! We need medical. A human has been poisoned." The room erupted in chaos. Aliens jumped up from their seats. Voices overlapped in a dozen languages. Someone knocked over a floating plate, and food splattered across the silver tablecloth. Danny sat in the middle of it all, still holding his piece of bread. He looked at Kira with wide eyes. "Should I not finish this?" he asked. Kira stared at him for a long moment. Then, despite everything, she started to laugh. "Only you, Danny," she said, shaking her head. "Only you could start a diplomatic incident with a dinner roll." Danny looked at the bread, then back at the chaos around him. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear Pella still screaming for a medic. His translator was picking up words like lethal and impossible, and how is he not dead? He shrugged and took another bite. It really was very good bread. 3 days passed without any problems. Danny stayed healthy. His blood tests came back normal. Zelvith had to admit that he had completely processed the Nightbloom toxin with no lasting damage. The incident at the dinner became a story that crew members whispered about in the corridors. The human who ate poison and asked for more. Danny was back in the engineering section, fixing a broken power coupling when the alarm sounded. It was not the normal alert for minor problems. This was the loud, screaming sound that meant something terrible had happened. He dropped his tools and ran to the bridge. Kira was already there, standing beside Commander Vrax. Other officers moved quickly between stations, their faces tight with worry. "What's happening?" Danny asked, slightly out of breath. Vrax did not look away from the main screen. "We received a distress signal from Sindari Colony 7. They have been attacked." The screen showed a planet covered in green forests and blue oceans. It looked peaceful from space, but the data scrolling beside it told a different story. Life signs dropping. Communication systems failing. Emergency beacons screaming for help. "The Hollow Collective," Kira said quietly. "They hit the colony 6 hours ago." Danny had heard of the Hollow Collective. Everyone had. They were a group of species that rejected the Alliance and attacked anyone who joined it. They used fear and pain as weapons. They did not fight fair. What did they use? Danny asked. Zelvith appeared on the bridge, her antennae pressed flat against her head. She had been analyzing the distress signal data. Biological warfare. They deployed a toxin bomb in the main population center. The gas spread across the entire colony within minutes. She pulled up a chemical diagram on the screen. Danny did not understand most of it, but he recognized one pattern in the structure. It looked familiar. "Wait," he said, stepping closer. "That looks like Nightbloom extract," Zelvith confirmed. "Modified and made more powerful, but the base compound is the same. The Hollow must have found a way to weaponize it." Commander Vrax turned slowly to look at Danny. Everyone on the bridge did the same. The silence was heavy and full of meaning. "How many colonists are affected?" Kira asked. 32,000, Zelvith answered. "They are paralyzed. Unable to move, unable to speak, unable to eat or drink. If we do not reach them with an antidote in the next 48 hours, they will all die. Danny felt cold. 32,000 people, lying helpless, slowly dying of thirst and hunger. Children, families, innocent people who had done nothing wrong. Can we make enough antidote? He asked. Zelvith shook her head. We have supplies for maybe 500 doses. The antidote takes weeks to produce in large quantities. We cannot save them all in time. Then we find another way, Kira said firmly. What about rescue teams? Go in, pull people out, treat them somewhere safe? The toxin is still in the air, Zelvith explained. Any rescue team would be exposed within seconds. Full protective suits would allow maybe 30 minutes of work before the poison eats through the material. Not enough time to save everyone. Danny stared at the screen. He thought about what Zelvith had said. The toxin was based on nightbloom extract. The same stuff he had eaten 3 days ago. The stuff that should have killed him but didn't. What if the rescue team was immune? He said slowly. Everyone looked at him again. Human, Vrax said carefully. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? The toxin is nightbloom based. Nightbloom didn't hurt me at all. Maybe this won't either. Danny stood straighter, trying to look braver than he felt. Send me down there. Let me test it. If I can survive the atmosphere, I can help distribute the antidote. Save as many as possible. This is not a small dose from a dinner plate, Zelvith warned. This is a concentrated weapon designed to kill. We have no idea how your body will react. Then we'll find out. Danny looked at Kira. I have to try. Those are 32,000 people dying down there. If there's even a chance I can help, I have to take it. Kira studied his face for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'm going with you. You'll need security backup. Lieutenant Vance, the risk is extreme, Vrax said. So is doing nothing. Kira crossed her arms. Danny's our engineer. If there's any tech down there that needs fixing, he's the one to do it. And if something goes wrong, he'll need someone to drag his body back to the ship. Thanks for the confidence, Danny muttered. Vrax considered for several seconds. His golden eyes moved between Danny and Kira, calculating risks and possibilities. Finally, he made his decision. Prepare a shuttle. You will take 2 Tarani volunteers in full protective gear as support. Dr. Zelvith will monitor your vital signs from orbit and guide the antidote distribution. He paused. If the toxin proves too strong for even a human, you will retreat immediately. That is an order. Understood, Commander, Danny said. He didn't mention that he was terrified. He didn't mention that his hands were shaking slightly. He just nodded and turned to leave the bridge. Pella caught up to him in the corridor. Her yellow eyes were bright with worry. Danny, she said, grabbing his arm. I come from a Sindari colony. Those are my people down there. My family. Please, please save them. Danny looked at her young face and saw the fear she was trying to hide. He remembered being young, being scared, needing someone to tell him everything would be okay. I'll do everything I can, he promised. That's all I can give you. Pella nodded and let go of his arm. That is enough. Danny hoped she was right. Katie did not sleep that night. She sat in her small quarters with her computer screen glowing in the darkness, reading everything she could find about the Virax. The Academy database had limited information, mostly warnings about how dangerous the species was. Not helpful. She searched deeper, accessing old research files and hunting reports from expeditions to Korath 6. Most of the expeditions had ended badly. The Virax was described as the perfect killing machine, an apex predator with no natural enemies on its home world. It had armor that could stop most weapons, venom that could kill in minutes, and 8 legs that let it move faster than anything its size should be able to move. But Katie was not looking for reasons to be afraid. She was looking for patterns. Every creature had patterns. Her father had taught her that when she was young, back on the frontier colony where survival was not guaranteed. He had been a hunter, one of the best, and he had shown her how to read the world around her. "Watch how it moves," he used to say. "Watch how it breathes. Everything alive has a rhythm. Find the rhythm, and you find the weakness." Katie studied the blurry footage of Varak's attacks. She watched the same clips over and over, slowing them down, looking for details others had missed. Slowly, she began to see things. The way the creature favored its front legs when charging. The slight delay before it used its venom. The pattern of its breathing when it was about to strike. She didn't find a guaranteed way to win, but she found possibilities. And possibilities were enough. Morning came too quickly. Katie showered, dressed in her training clothes, and looked at herself in the mirror. She saw a young woman who looked completely ordinary. Average height, average build, nothing special about her at all. That was what everyone saw. That was what made them underestimate her. She remembered the day the predator came to her family's shelter. She was 12 years old, small and scared, hiding in a storage closet while her parents tried to drive the creature away. Her older brother had panicked, ran outside, and the predator had chased him. Katie had watched through a crack in the closet door, frozen with terror. But then something had changed. The terror had faded, replaced by something cold and clear. She had stopped shaking. Her mind had become quiet and focused. She had found a knife in the closet, slipped outside, and followed the predator's tracks through the snow. Her brother had survived because she found them in time. The predator had not survived at all. Katie left her quarters and walked toward the arena. The halls were crowded with students heading to the same place. They talked excitedly about who might volunteer, placing bets on how long each challenger would last. When Katie passed, some of them laughed. "Look, the human is coming to watch," one of them said. "Maybe she'll learn what real warriors look like." Katie ignored them. She had learned long ago that words meant nothing. Actions meant everything. The arena was packed. Every seat was filled, and more students stood along the walls. At the center, the cage waited. It was uncovered now, but the bars were too thick and too close together to see clearly inside. The creature within was silent, saving its energy. Instructor Valek stood on a raised platform beside the cage. His yellow eyes swept across the crowd as he called for silence. "The time has come," he announced. "The honor trial begins. Who will volunteer?" Silence. Every student suddenly found somewhere else to look. Even the bravest warriors in the academy did not move. Katie watched Zareth Cole. The Vexery was sitting with his friends, his forearms clasped tightly. He looked like he wanted to volunteer. He had spent his whole life preparing for moments like this. But his legs did not move. His hands stayed at his sides. The Varak shifted inside its cage, and the entire structure groaned. A low growl echoed through the arena, deep and hungry. Zareth flinched. "No volunteers?" Valek said, his voice dripping with disappointment. "Perhaps I was wrong about this generation. Perhaps there are no true warriors among you." More silence. Students looked at their feet, their neighbors, anywhere but at the cage. Katie stood up. Every head in the arena turned toward her. For a moment, no one understood what they were seeing. A human? Standing? Was she leaving? Was she afraid? Then she spoke, her voice clear and steady. "I volunteer." The silence that followed was different. It was not fear or hesitation. It was shock. Pure, absolute shock. Then the laughter started. It began with the Vexery students, Zareth's friends. They laughed so hard they could barely breathe. The laughter spread like a wave, rolling through the arena until thousands of alien students were howling with amusement. A human? Fighting the Varaks? It was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Danny grabbed Katie's arm. His face was pale, desperate. "Katie, please. Don't do this. You'll die." She looked at him calmly. "Matey, this isn't a joke. That thing will kill you in seconds." "Maybe," she said again, "but probably not." Instructor Valik raised his hand, and the laughter slowly died. He looked at Katie with an expression she could not read. Something between amusement and curiosity. "The human volunteers," he said. "How unexpected." He gestured for her to come down to the arena floor. Katie gently pulled free from Danny's grip and made her way through the crowd. Students moved aside, staring at her like she had lost her mind. Zyrith Cole blocked her path. He towered over her, his forearms crossed, his expression cruel. "Let the human go first," he said loudly, playing to the crowd. "It will be entertaining to watch. And when she dies, a real warrior can step forward." Katie looked up at him. She did not blink. She did not look away. "If you were a real warrior," she said quietly, "you would have volunteered before me." The smile vanished from Zyrith's face. For a moment, something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Then he stepped aside, and Katie continued down to the arena floor. Counselor Mirith watched from a private viewing box high above the arena. She was old, even by Tholian standards, with silver skin and eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had read files that most people did not know existed. Files about Earth, about humanity, about what they had survived to become what they were. She leaned forward as Katie stepped into the fighting circle. "Instructor." Valik approached the young human. His voice was low enough that only she could hear. "You can still withdraw. No one would blame you. Humans are not built for this kind of combat." Katie met his eyes without fear. "You don't know what humans are built for." Something flickered across Valak's face. It might have been surprise. It might have been respect. He stepped back and raised his arms. "The challenger has been accepted. The trial will begin in 1 minute." The arena fell silent. Katie turned to face the cage. Inside, she could see movement now. Glimpses of dark armor and too many legs. Eyes that gleamed with predatory intelligence stared back at her. The countdown began. Danny stood in the crowd. His hands clenched so tight, his knuckles were white. Around him, aliens whispered and laughed, already preparing to watch a human die. They had no idea what they were about to see. Katie took a slow breath and let it out. Her mind became quiet and clear. The fear was there, somewhere deep inside, but she pushed it down and locked it away. Fear was useful. Panic was not. The countdown reached 0. The cage door began to open. The cage door swung open with a heavy metallic clang that echoed through the silent arena. For a moment, nothing happened. The darkness inside the cage was absolute, hiding whatever waited within. Then the Varax emerged. Katie had seen images and footage, but nothing had prepared her for the real thing. The creature was massive, standing taller than any alien in the arena. Its body was covered in black chitinous armor that gleamed under the lights. 8 legs moved with terrible grace, each one ending in claws that could tear through metal. Its head was a nightmare of fangs and mandibles, and its eyes burned with intelligence that was almost worse than its physical power. This was not a mindless beast. This was a thinking predator, one that had survived and dominated on a world where everything was designed to kill. The crowd gasped and pulled back instinctively, even though they were safely in the stands. The Varax turned its head slowly, scanning the arena, looking at the thousands of potential prey surrounding it. Then its gaze fixed on Katie Dodd. She did not run. She did not scream. She stood perfectly still and looked back at it. The creature tilted its head, confused. Every other prey it had ever hunted had run. That was the natural order. The weak fled and the strong chased. But this small soft creature was not fleeing. It was watching. Katie studied the Varax with the same focused attention she had given the training footage. Up close, she could see details that no camera had captured. The slight unevenness in its stance, suggesting an old injury in one of its rear legs. The cloudiness in its left eye, probably from a fight years ago. The way it breathed, deep and slow, conserving energy like any good hunter. She filed away every detail. This was not a monster to her. It was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Instructor Velik's voice boomed across the arena. The trial has begun. May honor guide the worthy. The Vorax charged. It moved faster than anything that Psi should be able to move. 8 legs working in perfect coordination, armor plates shifting to reduce wind resistance, jaws opening wide to reveal rows of venomous fangs. It crossed the distance between them in less than 2 seconds. Katie waited. She waited until she could see the details of its fangs, until she could feel the wind from its movement, until every instinct in her body screamed at her to run. Then, at the last possible moment, she stepped to the side. The Varax shot past her and crashed into the arena wall behind where she'd been standing. The impact shook the entire structure. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The creature spun around, confused and angry. The crowd went silent with shock. Katie had not attacked. She had not tried to hurt it. She had simply moved out of the way at exactly the right time, using the creature's own momentum against it. Lucky, someone in the crowd muttered. She got lucky. Danny shook his head. In you, Katie. That was not luck. The Varax approached more carefully this time. It circled Katie slowly, testing her reactions, looking for weakness. She turned with it, keeping it in front of her, never letting it get behind her. She remembered her father's lessons: patience, observation, control. A predator expects prey to act like prey, he had told her. When you don't, it gets confused. Use that confusion. The Varax lunged again, a quick strike aimed at her legs. Katie stepped back, just far enough to avoid the claws, and the creature's attack hit empty air. It lunged again, and again she moved just enough to avoid it. She was not trying to hurt it. Not yet. She was learning its rhythm. In the stands, Counselor Mirith watched with growing amazement. She had seen warriors from 100 species face predators like this. They always did the same thing. Attacked immediately, tried to overwhelm the creature with force, died quickly when their strength was not enough. The human was doing something different. She was treating the Varax like a problem to be analyzed, not an enemy to be destroyed. The Varax grew frustrated. Its attacks became faster, wilder, more desperate. It was used to prey that ran or prey that fought. This human was doing neither. She was simply avoiding, moving, watching. Katie felt the pattern forming in her mind. She could predict its movements now. The slight tension before a charge. The shift in weight before a claw strike. The way it hesitated when it had to use its weak leg. The creature was powerful, yes, but it was also predictable. And predictable could be beaten. The Varax stopped attacking and stared at her. Something new flickered in its eyes. Uncertainty. For the first time in its life, it was facing prey that did not act like prey. Katie used the pause to catch her breath. Her legs burned from constant movement. Sweat dripped down her face. But her mind remained clear and focused. Zyrith Cole watched from the stands, his expression changing. When the human had volunteered, he had expected entertainment. A quick death, a moment of laughter, nothing more. But she had survived longer than anyone expected. She was surviving through pure technique and intelligence. He thought about his own training, the hours spent building strength and speed. He realized that this human had trained something different, something he did not fully understand. The Varax attacked again, a full charge with all its speed and power. Katie moved, but this time she was a fraction too slow. One of the creature's legs caught her arm, and she was thrown across the arena. She hit the sand hard and rolled. Pain exploded through her body. She could feel blood running down her arm where the claws had cut deep. The crowd roared. Thinking the end had finally come, Katie pushed herself to her feet. Her arm screamed in protest, but she forced it to move. She stood up straight, faced the Varax, and smiled. The creature froze. In all its years of hunting, no prey had ever smiled at it. Prey showed fear. Prey showed pain. Prey showed desperation. They did not smile like they knew something the predator did not. Danny wanted to close his eyes, but he could not look away. He had known Katie for 2 years. He had trained with her, eaten with her, watched her endure mockery and dismissal without ever losing her composure. But he had never seen her like this before. There was something in her eyes now. Something ancient and patient and absolutely terrifying. Katie wiped the blood from her arm and spread her stance. She was done observing. She had found the pattern. She knew the creature's weaknesses. Now it was time to hunt. "Come on," she said softly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Let's finish this." The Varax heard her. It understood the tone, if not the words. And for the first time since it had emerged from its cage, it felt something it had never felt before. Fear. It was staring at a predator. A predator wearing the skin of prey. The crowd sensed the shift. The laughter and mockery had disappeared completely. Every being in the arena was watching in stunned silence. Instructor Valek's yellow eyes were wide with shock. In 30 years of running the honor trial, he had never seen anything like this. The human should be dead. Instead, she was standing there, bleeding, smiling, and somehow making a Varax hesitate. Katie began to move forward, one slow step at a time, walking toward the creature that was supposed to kill her. The Varax backed away. The arena had become completely silent. Thousands of students held their breath as they watched something impossible unfold before them. A Varax, the most feared predator in the known galaxy, was backing away from a human. Katie continued her slow advance. Her wounded arm hung at her side, blood dripping onto the sand, but her eyes never left the creature. She had spent the entire fight learning. Now she understood its patterns better than it understood itself. The Varax snarled and charged again, but there was desperation in its movements now. It had tried to kill this prey a dozen times and failed. The rules it had lived by its entire life were breaking apart. Katie sidestepped the charge, but this time she did not simply avoid. As the creature passed, she struck its weak rear leg with all her strength. Her fist connected with the joint she had identified, the one that carried an old injury. The Varax stumbled. It was a small thing, barely noticeable, but it was the first time the creature had lost its balance in the fight. The crowd gasped. Katie pressed the advantage. She moved around the creature, staying on its blind side where the clouded eye could not track her. The Varax spun to face her, but she was already moving again, always staying just outside its field of clear vision. "She's hunting it," Danny whispered. His voice was filled with awe. "She's actually hunting it." The other human students gathered around him stared at the arena floor. They had grown up being told that humans were weak, that they did not belong among the warrior species of the galaxy. Now, they were watching one of their own take apart an apex predator with nothing but patience and intelligence. The Varax attacked again, but its movements were slower now. Katie had forced it to use its weak leg constantly, and the strain was showing. She dodged another claw strike and landed another blow on the same joint. This time, the creature's leg buckled completely. It went down on one side, struggling to rise. Zareth Cole leaned forward in his seat. His 4 hands gripped the railing so hard, his knuckles had turned pale. He had trained his entire life in combat, learning to use his strength and speed to overwhelm opponents. But this human was using a completely different approach. She was not fighting the Varax. She was dismantling it, one piece at a time. The creature managed to rise, but it was limping now. Its attacks became wild, desperate swings that Katie avoided with increasing ease. She struck twice more at the weak leg, then shifted her attention to its other vulnerabilities. A strike to the soft tissue below its jaw. A kick to the joint of another leg. Each blow was precise, calculated, aimed at spots she had identified during her hours of observation. The Varax was slowing down. Its breathing had become labored. Its movements were clumsy and uncoordinated. It had spent its entire life as the ultimate predator, and now it was being taken apart by prey that refused to act like prey. Katie felt her own body failing. The cut on her arm was deep, and she had lost blood. Her muscles burned from constant movement. Every breath hurt. But she had learned long ago how to push past pain. On the frontier, stopping meant dying. You kept moving no matter what. The creature lunged one more time, putting everything it had into a final desperate attack. Katie saw it coming. She had seen this pattern before, in the training footage, in the fight itself. She knew exactly what the Varax was going to do, but she dropped low at the last moment, letting the creature's jaws snap shut above her head. Then she rolled underneath its body and came up on its blind side. Before the Varax could react, Katie jumped onto its back. The creature thrashed wildly, trying to throw her off. Its legs scraped against its own body. Its neck twisted at impossible angles, but Katie held on. She wrapped her legs around its torso and grabbed hold of its armored head. The crowd was screaming now. Some cheered, some shouted in disbelief, some called for the fight to be stopped. No one could believe what they were seeing. Katie found the spot she was looking for. During her research, she had read about a nerve cluster at the base of the Varax's skull. It was protected by heavy armor, nearly impossible to reach from the outside. But from this position, riding on the creature's back, she could access the small gap between armor plates. She pressed her fingers into the gap and pushed. The Varax screamed. It was a sound no one in the arena had ever heard before. A sound of pain and confusion and something very close to fear. The creature's legs gave out, and it collapsed onto the sand. Katie kept the pressure on the nerve cluster. She was not trying to kill it. She was trying to make it submit. "Give up," she said quietly. Her voice was tired but steady. "You don't have to die today." The creature struggled beneath her, but its movements were weak and uncoordinated. The pressure on its nerve cluster was disrupting its entire body. It could not fight. It could barely move. Instructor Valek stared at the scene with his mouth open. In 200 years of the honor trial, no one had ever brought a Varax to its knees. No one had ever even come close. And now a human, a species they had dismissed as soft and weak, was moments away from victory. Counselor Mirith rose from her seat. Her ancient eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "Now they see," she whispered. "Now they finally see what Earth creates." The Varax made one last effort to rise. Its legs pushed against the sand. Its body heaved. Its jaw snapped at empty air. But Katie held firm, maintaining the pressure, refusing to let go. Slowly, the creature's struggles weakened. Its legs stopped moving. Its body went limp. Its eyes, those intelligent predator eyes, closed. Submission. For a long moment, no one moved. The arena was frozen in absolute silence. Then Katie released her grip and climbed off the creature's back. She stood on shaking legs, covered in blood and sand, and looked up at the stunned crowd. The Varax lay still behind her, breathing but defeated. The first of its kind to ever lose a fight at the academy. Danny was the first to react. He jumped to his feet and screamed Katie's name. The other human students followed, their voices rising in a wave of triumph that had been building for 5 years. Then, slowly, other voices joined in. Alien students who had laughed at humans their entire lives found themselves cheering for one. The sound grew and grew until the entire arena was roaring. Katie stood alone in the center of it all. She was exhausted, injured, barely able to stand. But she did not fall. She would not fall. Not in front of them. Not after everything she had done to get here. Instructor Valek approached her. His expression was completely changed. The contempt was gone, replaced by something she had never seen directed at a human before. Respect. "You have won," he said, his voice barely audible over the crowd. "You have defeated the Varax." Katie nodded. She did not have the energy for words. Valek looked at her for a long moment, then did something no one expected. He bowed, a Rothian warrior instructor bowing to a human student. "Tell me," he said quietly, "how did you know you could win?" Katie looked back at the unconscious Varax, at the creature that had killed 11 champions before her. "I didn't know," she said. "But I come from a world that tried to kill us every day for 200,000 years. We learned how to fight back." She turned to face the crowd, the thousands of alien faces staring down at her with new eyes. "That's what humans do. We survive.